All right, welcome to issue number 6 of the Catalyst Circle meeting. We'll start with a go around and just check in, see how everyone's doing, where they're at, how they're feeling. We'll start with Joey and then go to Rhys.
Hi everyone, I'm good. I'm just, like I said, just hiding away in my storage closet today. So if someone walks in, I'll blip back on. I'll hand out supplies as we go. All right, I'm good.
Rhys and then Mercy.
Hey guys, I'm all right. I've been a little bit burnt out, to be honest with you. I thought after the whole Catalyst campaign had finished, I thought, oh, you know what? I'll just kind of relax a little bit and take some time for myself. But I haven't really stopped. So I think the last couple of days I've just really hit a bit of a wall. So I've been taking it a little bit easier, and I'm feeling a bit better now. But yeah, it's been very slow the last kind of couple of days for me.
All right, thanks, Rhys. Mercy and then Harris.
Yeah, I really hear where Rhys is coming from. You know, I had that period, but I think I am feeling energized again. It's always an ebb and a flow, right? So yeah, happy to be here and happy for the future.
Harris and then Nadia.
Great. Yeah, definitely happy to be here. Certainly a lot of activity going on and lots of different streams and directions, and you know, just happy to be focused on trying to get some work done with the circle here today.
Nice. Thanks, Harris. Nadia and then Dimitri.
Yeah, I guess I'll just, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Echo what everyone's said there. It's sort of like a balance of accomplishment and opportunity and rest, right? So yeah, feeling that need to address piles of things in my own life that need attention. But luckily it's sunny in Philadelphia, so it's always sunny in Philadelphia.
Dimitri, how are things going?
It's going all right, managing so far. So glad to be here, another meeting.
All right, thanks. JP, if you're able to, how are you doing? You can just give us a thumbs up emoji if that's most convenient. All right.
Sorry. Hey, sorry. Yeah, I'm just double meeting today, and so I need to just be off camera. But as I said, I will be here presenting. The only problem is I have to present in the other meeting, and so I will. I'm just dual managing, but like Joey, I'm half an hour on either side. So once the lunch break hits, I should be okay. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries. Until everyone is full-time Catalyst, we're gonna have to juggle all sorts of these kind of things. So and the circle is definitely not a full-time job yet. So totally cool. And thanks for doing your best, JP. We really appreciate you trying to make the time and fitting it in. For myself, I echo a lot of this. I've seen a lot of fatigue in the community and a lot of heading towards burnout. So I'm really thankful that IOG has decided to put a little bit of a gap in between Fund 8 and 9. And I would love it if the community followed suit and just canceled all meetings during those 2 weeks before Fund 9 starts, so people can actually really get a rest. But I'm pretty excited. I'm starting to come out of my own little burnout phase and feeling a little bit better about things and more energized. So I'm excited for the meeting today. So let's get in. We have a short period for any announcements. If anybody has anything short to announce to the group, now is the time. Harris?
Well,
oh, Mercy, you want to go first?
oh, no, Harris, please go. Mine is...
Yeah, I just wanted to announce that we'll have some representation at Consensus. So definitely invite anyone that's attending. It would be great to get together. But certainly, you know, there'll be some community events as well as the main event of Consensus. So I do plan to be in Austin. Definitely would be great to meet any of you if you're planning to attend.
Mercy, you had something.
You know, sometimes I'm a bit impulsive, but Nori, just off of what you said regarding canceling our meetings,
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, you know, I was discussing with Nadia the other time, just because this is a it's a two rounds put together, if maybe we can sort of suspend one of the meetings and give ourselves a break. I was joking with Nadia that it's like parliamentarians going, or Congress people going into their constituents to, you know, sort of engage. So yeah, maybe one break, and then we can all maybe catch our breath a little bit.
Okay, that's an excellent suggestion. Maybe we can talk about that at the end when we schedule our next meeting and add that to the agenda. All right, thanks, Mercy. Any other announcements before we jump into the agenda? All right, so I will start sharing my screen. Here's the agenda for today. Catalyst Circle B3 meeting number 6 on Thursday, May 12th, 2022. And we are looking at the consent agenda, and I was going through this morning and kind of aligning the times. So the stand-up generally takes about 45 minutes. So I started the consent agenda at the hour. And then Joey had 15 minutes for his CCv4 voting topic. Dimitri asked for 20 for the rapid funding mechanism funds conversation for the general aid holder. I cut that down to 15 to be able to fit some of the other topics in, if that's okay. And then code of conduct discussion, Harris wanted 20. And then utilizing scribes and record keepers at 5 minutes at quarter till, and that takes us to the end of time. And then Mercy had another 15-minute topic that she wanted, but I just wanted to ask everybody what you want to do. Not everything is going to fit if we stick to the times that have been posted.
I can definitely cut mine down to 10 to 15 if we need more time for other topics.
Can also cut mine down to maybe 10 minutes, maybe raise it this time around and discuss it. Yeah, depending on what other members think, maybe we can actually put it on the board, on the issues board.
Same here. I'd cut back to 10.
Okay. I'm gonna have to work backwards here. If Joey's down to 10, then this can start at 10 after. And if we keep that to 15. So 25, 35, 40. So yeah, we're still a little bit over, but we'll see if we can squeeze any extra time out at the end. Is everybody happy with that? And the order looks okay? All right. Then let's jump into the Git board. All right, this is the prioritized problems board where the circle tracks all of our ongoing issues and sense problems. We'll start with the unassigned column to see if there's anything that isn't assigned to anybody yet. So we have community outreach reporting and KPIs. I'm not actually sure the provenance of this. It shows me, but I'm pretty sure I didn't put this in here. I'm not sure, but does anybody feel they want to help drive this or own this or talk to it?
This was actually me who put this in,
Okay.
Nori. I'm very happy to take it on. Yeah, it's really just finding ways to be able to report the work we're doing outside of the GitHub, right? If there's a place that we can go to just put the information forward, like, because that's what people were requesting of us, is that we had some kind of KPI, some kind of reporting mechanism. And I know we do, but it's not as clear or obvious for a lot of people. So maybe there's a way that we can do that. Maybe we can report it in the town hall if we decide on reasonable metrics that we can work to. But as I said in the last meeting, we got to be careful with what we decide to work from, because we run the risk of realigning what we're working towards with the sole goal of having the highest metrics as possible, which isn't necessarily a good way of measuring our work.
Right.
Yeah, so however we decide to do it, I'm happy to work with anyone else who wants to get involved with that as well.
Okay.
Rhys, I think this also had to do with, we talked about the marketing, the circle, and we were going to reach out to that one gentleman, maybe. Was that part of this as well?
Oh, yeah. Sim. I'm not sure if it's Simon or Simeon, or you messaged me about the guy as well. Yeah, I actually need to message him. I haven't messaged him. I need to get a hold of the guy, but I'll do that. You did send me his information on Discord, so I should be able to grab hold of him. I just I saw the message and then just haven't taken any action on it. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Thanks. And then we have faster funding for Catalyst projects.
Can I have one more point? So in terms of like what each of us, our roles are, I think some of that's defined in some of that initial description when you're actually going through the process of nomination in that process. So I don't know if that's helpful, Rhys, in terms of an original definition of what each of us do in each capacity. So I don't know if that's something you're familiar with. I just wanted to confirm that document does exist.
Yeah, no, I know what you're referring to. It isn't really that. It's about being able to provide feedback to the community, because from the space that we had with Dumpling, people were asking like where the evidence of our work is, and obviously we can refer to GitHub, but they said what were the metrics we were working to, what was this, what was that, and yeah. So if we can just find a way to satisfy those kind of idea or those questions, or yeah, then it would just be a good way to report to the community.
Okay. So I put a link to it's the nomination criteria, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and for that, as you work on that ticket and have things that you've done or are working on, it'd be great to update the ticket in comments, just so that we have a running history of what's being done there. And you kind of use that, so because the community is looking at the prioritized problem board, and without having to watch this meeting, it'd be nice to just get some of those updates there too. The next one we have is faster funding for Catalyst projects. Is this at a point where we want to assign somebody to it? It says setting up a challenge team to submit a rapid funding mechanism challenge in project Catalyst Fund 6. It looks like it may be a rather old ticket, actually.
I think that was done, yeah.
Yeah, in Fund 6 there was rapid funding. Oh, sorry, it is in Circle sign off. So the other one is start initiative anti-scammers bots on social media platforms. This seems similar to another one. But oh, I'm starting to remember now. Last meeting, we moved this back to the backlog and unassigned Dimitri just because it's not a prioritized problem. Is that?
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
We can just assign that to Elon Musk, who will fix Twitter, right?
I'm just gonna add this comment so that it doesn't pop up every week as a question. All right, so that's the unassigned backlog.
Should we sunset that one then?
Is it something that the circle will never work on? Or do we keep it unassigned until we're ready?
It's very broad in scope, so I just don't know if there's something we can actually take as an actionable piece of this.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think,
That-
again, there were some previous proposals out on that. I'm not sure if they were funded or not, but it'll be interesting to go back and just see if they were funded.
Do we want to take that action before we close it, or link to those proposals?
Sure. Does somebody want to do that?
I really don't want to do it, but if you want me to, I will.
Okay.
I guess too, there's a question of like, and I don't know what the answer to this is, kind of goes more broadly to the code of conduct stuff, but there probably is some space for discussion on like, I guess the word that I would use would be moderation of the platforms where they're sort of more official Catalyst related ones, but I guess each one sort of does that. So the actual statement is anti-scammer bots on social media platforms. So this is not like necessarily the channels preventing bad user experience for newcomers. I think there's legitimacy to that in terms of making sure that the channels where people come to work together are places that people don't have to feel threatened, I guess is maybe a strong word for it, but at least antagonized. That said, I think if it were going to become a prioritized problem and we're going to think about it, I don't know what the approach to that would be, but I think that there is some issue of a problem in there. Good, Harris. Thank you for rescuing me from my wandering around thinking. I appreciate it.
No worries. Yeah, so there's certainly places that are official, and there's also community-driven places that exist, right? So, I think we should set some kind of policy in terms of any channel that is created, that there would be moderation that goes with it, and an initial acceptance to jump into that, kind of like we see in Discord and different places where it's like, hey, okay, you must abide by these rules, and then make sure that we have somebody assigned to actually do the moderation. Some of those are IOG started sort of channels, but then there's other channels that gets created, and then then it's sort of Wild West. And so I don't know if we just implement a policy that says, hey, if you're going to start your own little dialogue channel, that you have moderation that goes with it.
Mm-hmm. And the linked document seems to have a pretty well stated problem statement around scams and people losing ADA due to them and having a bad experience. And it has some success criteria outlined, which involves Fund 7 and 8 for having some challenge settings to have some community focus on that to prevent scams. So maybe, Joey, you said there were some proposals that got funded and all that. So maybe if we just check and validate that this was achieved, that we can close it out, at least for the scamming part.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were funded, but I'll go back and check. So,
I mean, it may be as simple as all DMs are scams. pin that to every social media channel. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a rampant issue. So it is a problem generally across the industry.
Mhm. Okay, so I'm going to just add a little comment.
Cool. Thank you, Joey, for picking that up.
All right. So getting back to the board, we have our funded proposer backlog. So Mercy, if you want to jump in and talk to your tickets.
So regarding the item 10, how do we ensure that Treasury, this sentence is not worded properly. Anyway, so the issue is consistency for governance and even circle. I think that that's something that is still a strong sensed issue from the community. And I think at this point, outside of sort of waiting for what IOG has in mind, I don't think I have any updates on that. It's still a strong sensed issue. I know that there was a CIP in progress, but maybe Harris can speak to that, once we get there. The second issue, I believe, is so 11 is achieving clarification on the exact timing of release of funds each month for funded proposals. So that's work that is far advanced. I think right now it's sort of, it's almost a pilot because I think there is a tentative second Monday of the month. It did work out we are in May, right? So it did work out in May. And I know that Danny has said in various platforms that they are sort of working on it to get a regular calendar out. So that is good. And then the next issue.
Is there anything that's remaining to be done before we can close this out, or is there?
Oh, thanks. Yes, so going forward, so the whole idea was that once Danny and Marek, decide on a fairly consistent calendar, what we'll do is that we will provide a one-pager, let everybody know, try and communicate it as widely as possible to the funded proposers. And, like it's a benefit and responsibility thing, right? So in as much as IOG is trying to be consistent with the time that the funds are released, the funded proposers also need to, sort of, to the best ability possible to abide by the deadlines for submitting reports and such. So yeah, there is still a little bit of work to be done, but right now, just waiting to get a calendar because we want to put all the information together instead of sending it out piecemeal.
Just to kind of reply a little bit to that. So by calendar, you're referring to just a consistent date, or is this a fund by fund calendar?
So right now, as far as I understand, and that is what I believe was requested, and that's a great question actually. But right now, I'm thinking that it's going to be something that is standardized across funds. But I think I can, go back to Danny and make sure that that is all of our understanding, because maybe I'm making an assumption.
Because we have published the schedule for this latest fund that was published in the town hall, and that was actually drafted by Danny, and so that should be the cadence that we're working towards within this fund. So yeah, that could be a source for this next fund. It's possible there can be adjustments, and so knowing a few months out what the schedule is definitely something that we've delivered, but a consistent one and keeping that as a train that doesn't move. I don't know, there may be some challenges with that.
Did that schedule
Yeah.
include the payout dates? I think that's what this is really driving towards, is knowing when the ADA is going to hit wallets on a regular cadence.
On a
don't-
monthly basis. So yeah,
Oh, that's true. Okay.
yeah. But I think that that's also another issue that, since there has been a change in terms of the rest period in between, but maybe I'm sort of going out of scope of this particular discussion. So I think I'll rest on that. So yes, it's the month by month payouts to funded proposals. And at this point, it's almost done, as I've said. Thanks.
Okay.
And then the proposal group and the proposal process lack official. Yes. So this is still an ongoing issue. And I think that, the agenda item that I have put for later discussion might actually also help to cover this issue. I don't know, and I think that Harris is a part of this as well. Oh, and almost everybody, and Nadia, and yeah, so I think that at this point I will rest it and then maybe discuss it a bit more when we get to the agenda items.
All right. Thanks, Mercy. Next up is community advisors, Nadia.
Okay, great. Some of these I'm in, but I think there are other people. It's like, what does the Catalyst Circle do? I think that was the dumpling initiative that we're all part of. So I'll just try to stick to things that are specifically on mine. I reported last time that we had the process in motion for some of these, and to be honest, we're probably like in the last stretch of me having updates for them. So I don't have a whole lot new to report here or anything to shift. I mentioned last time that we were having the VCA resolution process happen. That happened over the last week, which was actually extremely fantastic to see how everyone came and respectfully addressed these issues that they found, and used the data to make points and made recommendations for improvements to that process for the future funds. So I'm going to update. We're still sort of finalizing what the outcomes will be. So once I have that, I'm going to update that as part of the former VCA one that we have closed, as we talked about. And the prioritizing of these fund 8 cents issues is happening right now. So I don't think that needs to move from where it is. We'll have some more updates once we get to the voting has happened on this. So now that the voting has happened, we're choosing which ones will become prioritized problems and receive working groups. So that's underway. And let me see if there's anything else I would speak to here. I think that's mostly it for me. A lot is happening, but nothing that I'm going to move here because things still need their finalization before they get chronicled, if that's okay.
Yep. And just looking at the card, there's no real commentary on this card yet. So if you can put updates there as well, that would be really amazing.
Yep, I'm planning to do that sort of all at once here, once we have a definitive thing to put there.
JP, your hand is up.
Yeah, hi guys, sorry, just to jump in, kind of a helicopter. I just want to flag for everyone that what we are doing what I'm going to be doing on the admin side is, as I go through this agenda and we have these action items that I'm listed, I'm going to be putting them into GitHub, and then I'm going to be tracking them. So I'll be following up with you via Slack on the action items. to prompt you for the week, including updating the tickets for which they're responsive. So that's something that we're going to implement to help keep everyone on track and to help the cards get filled out and improve our documentation. So I'm happy to answer any questions or talk more if people have any.
Thanks, JP. Joey.
Yeah, basically, I just really a question for Harris. So Nadia's gone through the process, right? She's sensed, she's organized, she got people together, they've collected information, they've analyzed it. So what is the final step for her to take? How can she present that to IOG to actually have any of those new ideas implemented?
I'll just like jump in there and say that is happening for some of these initial suggestions. So you know, Mercy and Danny and some of the team and I met last week just to start. We're starting the discovery of what's possible based on those things, so we don't start working too far in any direction on them. So that's an initial part of the discussion. It's a little bit of like, here's what's come up. Here's some of the suggestions. Which of these suggestions are feasible short term, and so that's starting to happen. But I think with where we are in the fund, it's probably like we'll gear up a little bit more once the button is put on fund aid a little bit more this week.
Well, I was listening to some of that during the CA meeting, and it sounded as though Danny needed something in a certain format or certain way to present it so that people on the other side, on the IOG side, would actually sit down and consider it. I don't know. Maybe I misinterpreted.
For the VCA process, you mean?
Yeah.
That is the case. So following the VCA, we had 6 petitions for the VCA process. So 6 different cases were raised. Those cases were heard across the week last week, 4 of them in the after town hall and 2 of them on Saturday the 7th. The group came together. The data was raised. People were able to respond. So we followed a process there, which had been outlined prior in order to resolve. And then votes were cast. And now it is there's a diverse number of different issues. Some of them are straightforward, which were reward slashing issues, which is what we anticipated using that process for. But some of them had to do with other things like process related things like the adjustment of rewards, CA rewards. If we found that there was a mistake in the system or the opportunity to consider different ways that we might find and determine outliers, like different percentages, different ways of running that process as a result of those cases. So it needs to just be compiled and put together in a digestible thing for IOG, because they are really the holders of the rewards process. And we need to make recommendations based on what those petitions raised, both for the process and for the specific cases here moving forward. So that is in its draft right now, being reviewed by the VCAs who were involved in formulating the process, and then will be handed forth so that it can be considered and we can resolve those specific issues.
So at the end of the day, is Danny your go-to person for IOG, or is Harris our avenue to go through?
I think it really depends on what. So in this particular case for the VCAs, it's Danny. And then Danny is sort of the bridge builder for the questions wherever they need to go beyond.
And I do think Danny is probably the best suited for this specifically. And so in general, identifying the problem, coming up with I'll call it a proposal, but not a proposal in the classical sense, but here's the impact of the change. And so if this actually leads in to capturing that feedback and actually making changes to a catalyst parameter. So this sort of feeds back into some of that, where if there's an adjustment to how rewards are calculated, that actually can go back into the definition on the IOG side of how that is defined, we make a change in the next fund, and then that's where the change is impacted, is sort of through that definition as we go through it. So as those are prioritized, it says, okay, this is addressing this particular item, and we accept it, then we actually change the parameter. So this is sort of how that process in the community can influence making adjustments to it. I don't know, is that clear?
Thanks for the clarification, everybody. I think that's super important, and maybe setting precedent for other seats to work through their communities and bring stuff in as well. All right. Anything else on the board, Nadia, that you want to update on?
No, I don't think so. I really take I take JP's point to heart. I think we do. It is good to maybe the question then is how much additional commentary is too much, right? So you could give a step-by-step of every single thing, or you could do it at certain key points, like when you're moving them across the board. So maybe that's a conversation even for the prioritized problem subgroup to talk about a little bit, because you want to have enough on here that we have institutional knowledge and historical record keeping, but also not so much that you have to read a lot of sort of monotonous, first we did this and then we did this and then we did this and then we did this kind of stuff. So yeah, but I'll make sure that these are, everything should be resolved by our next meeting. So I'll make sure that I have that updated, and maybe it can be an example of, is this good or not good?
Okay, thanks. Amazing. JP, your hand is still up, or is it up a second time? I just wanted to check before we move on.
Residual hand.
Okay. I'll lower it, or you did. Okay, next is Dimitri for the general voters. You want to talk to your cards?
Yeah. We are talking about what's on the consent agenda. Is that right?
No, we're
The home
talking
one?
about what's on the prioritized problem board that I'm sharing.
Okay, so one of the ones that we had was the I can't see. Yeah, one of the ones we had last week, where it was the anti-scam one that was moved out. The professional consideration one, we closed it off last time.
Mhm.
And the listening culture one, we haven't, I suppose the code of conduct and all that is part of that process. But other than that, on the listening culture, we haven't really gone into it and had a detailed discussion as to how to implement whatever we decide at a high level. So that's something that we need to look at, because that was something we discussed both last time, and I think it was initiated the time before that. So we looked at it on both those occasions, but we haven't really got into the nitty-gritty of exactly what we want to do to make it practical. I mean, since I've been in spaces and whatnot, I see that people are listening better than they were at the time this issue was raised. They have kind of got a sense more of what the circle is about, what we do, what we don't do, what are the boundaries of our powers or whatever. I mean, not powers, but what our actionable stuff that we can do and what we are not mandated to do or not, empowered to do, kind of. So in that sense, people are becoming little by little more aware. So people are listening, but the issues raised in this listening culture, at least what I went into great detail, was more of a general sense of courteousness, which has been prevalent that I have seen so far over the last 2 weeks in my experience in various Twitter spaces and whatnot. So it's good. I would say it's good. But the details raised in that para itself, we could get into detail and maybe form some actions that will be something worth taking up in the near future.
Okay, this is one of those cards that doesn't really have a clear definition of what success looks like. And we have yourself, Rhys, and Joey assigned to it. Maybe some next steps would be to clarify what success would look like and how we can get there, just to make it so it's not one of those cards because it's been here since a previous circle. So I see Kenrick and Stephen commenting. So it'd be nice to drive towards a pathway to completing it, just so that we can show the community that we have a concrete objective and here are the steps we're doing. Joey, your hand is up.
Yeah, so looking back, of course, this originally started because there was no place like Discord, et cetera, for the community to feel like they could just have general discussions, right? So when I went back to look at it, TiVo and Felix, of course, had jumped in and they created a discourse channel. And now, you know, there's many places where people can hold discussions. There's Telegram, there's Discord, there's Twitter. It's, you know, so my feeling is that if the version 1 and version 2 people had a moment to close out these priority boards, that they would have closed this one off, that they did what they had intended to do. Now, again, it's listening is an ongoing thing for there's no specific project that we're working on under that, but you can monitor it forever. But there's town halls after town halls. I mean, there's 1,000 places for people to meet now.
I think it was not quite just the meeting forums, because those have existed since the beginning. I think it was more around the specific concerns around listening. And I know that Stephen initiated this and had some concerns. Swarm came together and created the listeners. So there was some initiative around that. It may be worthwhile to follow up with those 2 people in groups to see where they're at, and see if there's any kind of, because we do need to close this off if nobody's working on it actively, and actually like create some kind of conditions of, okay, we're done because we achieved this, this, and this, or we still need to do this, this, and this.
Right. And if I remember, there was also some meetings around listening and how to listen. I think Stefan had some of those already. So it's probably finished from their perspective, but from ours is still sitting here on the board.
All right. Can the 3 of you maybe come up with a plan to get together and either close it out, make those notes of what was accomplished, and then we can close it up? All right. I see a thumbs up from Rhys. So, okay. So Rhys, Dimitri, Joey, if you guys could work on that offline. Dimitri, your hand is up. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, so when the listeners group was started back in February, I joined the group, and there were initiatives of discussing, I think you also may have been in that group, what we are going to do, how we are going to do it, what is the process. But I think maybe about, what was it, end of March, which was a month later or so, I was, without my knowledge, I was removed from the group, so I don't have access to that group. So I don't know what has happened since then. So that is where it stands as far as the listeners group was concerned. But so I just want to share that. So I don't have access to that group now.
Thanks for the data point. Between the 3 of you, I think probably could get access to Catalyst Swarm and ask where that's going, because I think that group still is, if they're not active, they still are there, at least to my knowledge. So it'll be worth just kind of wrapping this up. So yeah, I just want to work the process and make sure we have a clear, this is our road to success on this. And if it's already done, then document what was done, and then we can close it. If there's stuff left to do, then highlight those, and then we can work with the community to get those done. All right. Anything else on here, Dimitri, that you want to talk to?
No, nothing at the moment.
Let's move on to IOG. Harris.
Yeah, great. I think we're starting the work on the CCv4 election item on today's agenda. What does this Catalyst Circle do? It's a pretty empty item. I'm not seeing a lot of detail in there. I think we probably need to define criteria for what this is. It's just kind of sort of raising the question. And yeah, so I think it would be good to define that more clearly. Certainly getting the word out more and more of what Catalyst Circle does through various channels. I suppose we could do more. We do that every time in the town hall, but so that's something that I think we should see if there's more that we can do, and maybe get a little bit more clarity from Bullish Dumpling on this. Yeah, Joey, you have your hand up.
Yeah, as I've described before, I've asked all the subcircles to present our presentation slides out when they go out in any forum that they happen to be in. And on Dumpling's side, I'm pretty sure she's had several Twitter meetings already. I thought I saw one with Mercy, or listened to one with Mercy, where she asked about the circle and what we do and etc. So maybe if they can, comment on that. I don't know. So there has been some progress, I think, from Dumpling side for sure on the Twitter side.
Yeah, so I think that was what Rhys alluded to earlier on, because after that or during that Twitter Spaces, a lot of issues came up, and people wanted to know about, a few things. So yes, definitely, I think that was a very successful Twitter Spaces. Nadia was there as well. And yeah, it might be a good idea to actually maybe get back with Dumpling and maybe hold a follow-up, as long as we have some stuff clarified, so that we are not going back to the community sort of empty-handed.
And again, as just an example for this card, it'd be nice to have kind of that context and what success looks like, so that we know when we're done. And yeah, this has 2 sentences that don't show that at all. So it's really hard to know what you need to accomplish and what success would look like, and when we can close it off.
Yeah.
And all your names are on this actually right now. So I don't know who, that makes it hard to know who's actually driving this. Is it Dumpling? But
I think she's not
taking the stronger lead on it, but go ahead.
No, finish.
I was just gonna say, I think Dumpling has taken the stronger lead on it. I mean, I'm working with the subgroups, but actually having the Twitter interviews has been pretty productive, I think.
No, I was just going to say that since she's not here, we can actually just assign it to her.
Nice.
Okay.
I'll continue. As far as the treasury support, there's definitely something that Mercy, I guess I probably need to take more direct alignment on this one. We do want to make sure it's sustainable. We definitely have been having some discussion on sort of the future of sustainability for this, and so that is something that I am working on internally at IOG, and I'll certainly share more information on that soon. But it is something that is something we're looking for, and if we can provide ownership of a certain amount, and that way we can cover all the parties that are involved, is certainly something that I've heard, and definitely something that is in consideration for the future of this. So apologize for being vague here, but I'll get more specific.
I added a comment, just this card too has no conditions of satisfaction or any indication of how it can be accomplished and when it will be done. So it'll be nice to get those details in here, just so we can drive towards those as a goal.
I'd like to maybe propose that we create a prioritized problem, or at least a Catalyst Circle problem, that we should define what the minimum criteria is for each of these. So we have a template that says each card should have this, these elements at minimum. And I think that would be helpful. And then just also ensuring that each of us are capturing the problem and doing the work of putting it in here, because this is proof of our work. So I think it's important that we get this piece right. And we've got a lot of great pieces in place, but just bringing it across the line, I think will help. Yeah. There's an item for improve awareness for Project Catalyst, item 12. That is, looks like a Trello artifact that sort of came in from there. Good news is there's definitely some progress with respect to this. So I think we could possibly call this picked up. So there is activity. We're certainly going to be making an impact on awareness for Project Catalyst, actually at consensus. So we will definitely have opportunity to get the word out and ideally improve or increase participation for Project Catalyst. It's certainly one of our objectives of attending consensus. And so that's the actual action. In addition, there's been some efforts in terms of branding for Project Catalyst that has been ongoing within IOG. And so that will also be sort of presented in concert with some of the output for consensus itself. And consensus is really coming up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And so there will be additional materials and messaging around Project Catalyst and what it is. So that's some good stuff, good content, which will help all of us in terms of getting the word out about Project Catalyst. So I guess the item for the proposer group and proposal lacks official document representation for issue solving. I probably need to dive in a little bit more detail on that myself. The code of conduct item is certainly ongoing. We have a work session today. Ideally, we'll have a after town hall to kind of cover an open discussion with the community on this. Item number 21 is picked up, and so sort of removing every decision from IOHK, and this is really going to start to enter the realm of involving entities outside of IOHK to make decisions on catalyst parameters. And so it might be worthwhile to start driving that as an initiative as well, and actually bringing that into the fold. There was some good open discussion related to this in the oversight committee work stream, that we would have those prioritized problems with some oversight by the oversight committee, and make sure that we're driving towards decisions that are more open with regards to what the parameters are, how decisions are made, and increasing the awareness as a first step. But at some point, we'll have to get to a place where we have decisions that are made outside of IOG. And the original model and design was to actually have decision-making done by the circle and a technical council. And so that's, we need to actually start working on that pilot. If we're to make progress on this is an approach. If people have other opinions on an approach to do that, I'm certainly open. But Mercy, you have your hand raised.
Oh, just a little clarification. I'm assuming that when you say entities outside of IOG, it's not like outside, but sort of within the Cardano ecosystem. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
in the
okay.
Cardano ecosystem. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay. So there is an item for prototyping for 24, lack of onboarding and introduction. So there is an effort to actually stand up an initial landing page for Catalyst in general. And so that may become a future additional resource for folks to sort of jump through, and that will actually be launched around the time of consensus as well. So definitely that will be part of helping to have people have a starting place. There is additional documentation that is being proposed to be driven in Gitbook, and we'll have some opportunities for folks to contribute to that awareness and introduction into the system. And so those are other real efforts that are being worked on at this point. So as we sort of go through there, we have a couple hands raised.
Yeah. Wait, Rhys. Go ahead, Joey.
Okay. You mentioned the landing page. I know there's I know 2 for sure, and I think maybe 3 different landing pages are being worked on. Is there a specific landing page that is in addition to those 3 for the community, or?
It would be in addition to, which can cross-reference some of these other pages as well. So it will become sort of an initial starting place.
Okay, and also I added some comments on the underneath this one. Again, looking back, this had something to do with the previous circles, and since in the beginning, of course, there was hardly any of these systems, but ADA Gov is working on some ecosystem maps, and if Fund 7 Swarm Labs works on some media and marketing. And so Stefan had recommended making the problem more specific and oriented toward deliverables. So I don't know. I guess the landing page would be a good place to start with that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and certainly we do want to engage in some outreach to AdaGov. So that's certainly on our list of things that we would like to set up some further discussion, and have some additional collaboration with the community on this.
Right. I had planned on meeting with them this last Saturday, but I had got the wrong time. So I'll try again this coming Saturday, see if I could get the right time with them.
All right, Rhys, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, I think we mentioned last time about the Catalyst School, and I thought I had been added to this, but I haven't for some reason. But I've been working with the guys at Catalyst School, Tivo, and everyone else, basically on fleshing out the structure for education and onboarding for people into Catalyst, and kind of aggregating all of the different groups and kind of building essentially mini courses for people to kind of attend at their leisure, to explain and kind of coach people through the various parts and processes in Catalyst. We had a meeting last week, which went really well. I think we spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours on a call, like going through their, I can't remember what the mind mapping tool you all uses, but anyway, that. And we worked a lot on the process, on how it should be structured and things like that. And a lot of good work went in. I didn't manage to make the meeting this week, but they had another meeting as well. And there are some items to get on with and kind of assign ourselves tasks. So I don't know if that would be, it certainly doesn't replace whatever IOG are working on, but it's definitely something that should be involved in this. It should be a part of this, because it is a huge thing that's been being worked on for ages, and we're actually making a bit of headway with it now, which is quite important, right? So I think that can help everyone kind of close this out as well by having this kind of stuff available and known. So yeah.
I added your name to the issue, Rhys, and then maybe if Harris, Nadia, Joey, and Rhys could get together and work on those, what does success look like, and then we can report on that and close it out when we feel we've achieved it. That would be great.
Perfect.
Nadia, your hands up.
Yeah, never mind. It's like not that important.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
Harris?
Well, I will mention definitely some other work that was ongoing. We had a sort of an open data discussion. I don't know exactly where that would fit in here, but certainly having some good open dialogue with the community and members that are actively involved in toolmakers. I was there with a meeting with Joey, and just really trying to have that outreach and engagement and have that open dialogue. So I think that's it from my side.
So Joey jumping over to toolmakers and maintainers.
Yeah, I really hope I can come to peace with this priority board before the end of my term, so the next person doesn't have to look backwards, they can look forward. Besides, I'm running out of my chicken in the road metaphors, and so I'm gonna need new material pretty soon. So let's just start. What I did is I went back to something I actually had presented several meetings ago, which was I met with the mentors, and I also had emailed Stefan back and forth, and he had comments on each one of these, because a lot of these were inherited. These aren't anything that Circle version 3 put out there, so I don't really, for some of these, I don't have any projects or anything I can measure under these. It's all, I believe, if Felix and Tivo had the opportunity, they would have probably closed out some of these and put some finalization there. So, but anyway, we can go through them and just see if we can figure out where to go.
Would it be more effective for you to go through these, and because a lot of them we've already looked at, and
Right.
a lot of them need some kind of definition on what success looks like, and you said you've talked to them, so it may be a good next step just to add those details to say what success looks like, and then come back next meeting and actually say this was done, and we can close it out now, since
Yeah,
it was from a previous iteration.
I think that's good. And if I were going to put something on the board myself for what I have sensed, it would all go back to that original letter, the transparency for the Treasury and IOG decision making, and data and access to the data APIs. So, but we're working with Harris on that, and we know the Treasury folks already came out. They did a presentation on the Treasury, so they've acted on that. And Harris has been engaged with Phil and myself at AIM to talk about the data. So there's things moving in that direction, but it's not really a item on the board. It's kind of mixed in with everything.
Some of those may be worthy of a prioritized problem if you can couch it as a problem sensed and then activity that happens, just to show that, because at the end of this, we want to show what you actually did on the circle and the impact that was made for the community. And if these things are hiding between the cracks, then that would be a shame to not have that long-term memory of what happened.
I'm good then.
Okay. Thanks, Joey. And then Bullish Dumpling is not here today, so we don't have any report from the Cardano Foundation. And we're 8 minutes over time, so let's jump straight in.
So I will say that Bullish Dumpling did post some things, I guess, in the channel. I don't know if that covers some of her points, but
Yeah,
I do.
so she, no, sorry. She spoke to the items. I have copied her report and put it into the notes version for everyone if they want to see it. And it's also in Slack as well.
Perfect. Thank you, JP. So for those of you watching the video, if you want to know the Cardano Foundation representatives updates, refer to the notes. They will be there. All right, jumping into the consent agenda, we have our first topic here from Joy for the CCv4 voting.
Guys, we didn't cover my updates, but don't worry, I can quickly talk about them now.
Sorry.
It's all right, don't worry. Basically, I had a meeting. Previously, we started setting up this SPO guild, and we were working on a challenge setting for SPOs, basically for business opportunities, support, or whatever during through Catalyst. So we've been working on that. I have drafted like a challenge setting for it, which we'll be submitting for Fund 9 So that's going to be ready in the next couple of weeks after a couple of iterations between the three of us. And then we're going to start onboarding SPOs into that group. So that's one of them. That's the undefined miscellaneous challenge bucket. And then the second one, how to involve SPOs in Catalyst projects. We have, I'm not sure if I've gone completely off topic when I was reporting on this. It seems I have. But basically, we've been, we're putting a website together to help with things like a job board or a way for people to advertise work to SPOs, because that's another issue that's been coming on. And oh, and the other thing, Becky. So I was supposed to have a breakout room on the SPO call last week. But last minute, Becky canceled it. I think she was ill, so she basically didn't have time to set it up or something. I don't know the exact details. She kind of basically it didn't happen. So hopefully it'll be happening in the next month. It's a little bit frustrating because that would have been a great opportunity, but you know, it is what it is. I've also set up some calls, which I haven't reported here, with some different groups of SPOs over the next 2 weeks. So I'll be able to report back on that, and I'll add to the different cards in the meantime on GitHub.
Perfect. And also to these cards as well, it'd be nice to know what success would look like. I know some of this was started in a previous iteration, and we actually had fund 7 categories, 2 of them for SPOs. So that might be useful to just capture in here and then work towards anything else that you want to accomplish before calling this card complete.
Yeah, sure. I was reporting the work and the developments on it, but I haven't actually defined success for it. So I'll do that, and then we can track it a little bit easier.
Perfect. Thanks. And thanks for that update, and sorry for missing your card.
So I'll let you off this time, Louis.
All right. Let's jump into the consent agenda. So Joey, do you want to kick it off with CCv4 voting?
Sure. I kind of got nerved up a little bit because I misinterpreted what Nori had invited people to review what the admin role would look like. And I thought, oh my gosh, is that the circle stuff? So I was hoping that we could try to set some timelines, the timeline of when we think people should be at least submitting their candidacy, and when we think the voting should take place. I'm not sure what that timing is, but maybe people here do. And also, I wanted to just throw this out there for everybody to think about. I think it would be helpful if the candidates were able to interface with us and ask questions, either in writing or on video, prior to accepting the candidacy, because people like myself who's working 40 hours a week, you know, they may not realize just exactly what that takes, that there's meetings during the day. Maybe everybody can't hide in the closet, you know, and during their lunch period, etc. So plus, you know, like for myself, I'm on challenge teams, and I've been the VCA, and you know, the whole thing, all the activities that you're in, you kind of lose sense of that you just don't have enough time in the day to be as effective as you'd like. So I want to throw that out there as well. That's all. I just wanted to kickstart this.
I think that's probably a good idea, to work backwards from when we need to have the election process like finalized and when we would hold it, and make sure that we're doing the right things at the right time, because I don't think we actually have a lot of time left if we're going to change the election mechanism. And Harris, your hand's up.
Yeah, so I certainly would like to propose that we take the opportunity to inject a challenge, even though it may not have been voted on, into the system, where we establish a challenge for each seat, so it can be available within the next fund, and therefore proposals can be generated out of that challenge. So, you know, I would propose that we do that, and we can open the floor for a discussion on it.
Rhys?
Yeah, on the timing for it, I think we need to. One thing that I found is when we were being onboarded, it seemed like a bit of a rush to get everything in before everything started. You know, it's not anyone in particular's fault or anything. It's just kind of the craziness of Catalyst, right? So I think we need to be voting 2 weeks before we have people before the next fund starts. And I'm not sure if that's the same time as we had it before. If it is, then maybe I don't know. But I feel like we need a little bit of time, a little bit of buffer. Also, if that's the case, I think we should really be voting people in the week before, you know, so that would be 3 town halls before funding starts, I guess. And then maybe people need to be announcing their candidacy maybe 2 weeks before that to bring the awareness in. I'm not sure what the timeline is already, but that would basically be 5 weeks before the fund, which would mean it would be about halfway through the fund 9 that we'd start setting that process up. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
I think based on what Paris just proposed, he was talking about creating challenge settings within Idea Scale where people can post their candidacy for each of the 5 seats in 5 different challenge settings. And then that kind of lends the natural train of thought that the election would happen as part of the Fund 9 voting process, and people would vote for the candidates alongside the projects that they want to fund and other challenge settings. So that would be a different, that whole schedule, we'd have to wait for the voting results before we knew who the circle was, and then start the onboarding process.
But you know what, that would actually be a much more kind of fluid process, I think, you know, having thought about it. Right, that actually makes a lot more sense to do it that way. And I think Harris actually mentioned that in the last meeting as well. And yeah, as long as we don't let people put prices on their candidacy, I think we're all right. And if we have that little buffer between finding the results and starting the next fund like we do this round, then all the better, because that gives us time to onboard people as well.
Okay, Joey, and then Nadia.
Yeah, maybe we can take donations. I'll run again if we can get people to donate money, right? I was just curious, is it possible to have a special election using Idea Scale? Let's just throw that out there.
Nadia, and then Dimitri.
Or maybe I can respond, Joey. I certainly in the future we do intend to have, you know, different cycles for voting, but I think for this initial round, for the short term, that maybe we try to keep it within the fund cycle for now, but that could change in the future.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm missing something, but if we use Idea Scale and the voter tool, so we go through the same way as proposals get voted on, but how do we deal with the 180 to 1 vote versus 1 person to 1 vote thing when we're choosing candidates to be elected? Is that what,
Maybe
I mean,
just count the wallets, maybe rather than the ADA in the wallet.
well, I mean, that's like a real, I think when you're, it's one, I don't know what the separation is, but I think that's a definitive change from we previously had 1 person vote and 1 person had 1 vote, and now we're going to have, you know, it's a different process unless there was some way to, in the voter tool, to adjust that, but that seems like a pretty big, so I'm interested in what we think. I don't know if I would be in favor of, I think if you're going to have someone elected to represent a group of people, I think a 1-to-1 is, I don't know. That's my 2 cents for how we figure that out.
Doesn't on the spreadsheet that comes out, it tells how many wallets voted per challenge.
I do believe there would be a way to identify that. So when the votes are actually cast to the side chain, then, you know, there is a fragment that is actually casting the vote, and so it probably can be reasonably identified as a single person voting or wallet voting. I think we could break that down, so that we can explore that on our side to confirm. But yeah, so definitely a great point, Nadia, and it's something we probably will need to have special treatment for these types of proposals.
Outside of that, I absolutely love the idea of having it go through idea scale and having it be a challenge and having people have time to present themselves there. And it seems like a much more natural use of the stuff we have in place, but I think that's important to get those things right.
Dimitri, you have a comment, and then Harris.
Yeah, just wanted to share. So once the people have nominated themselves and they have been listed as a proposal or a challenge, we can either use some sort of mechanism to ask questions from them, either the polling mechanism or some other mechanism to ask questions, similar to how it would be in a typical election setting where people ask their candidates questions before the voting day so that they know what their stance is on particular issues. That way people have a much clearer idea, and it's more like a real election process where people know what their candidate wants or is going to do or thinks about stuff and whatnot. So maybe the polling tool is relevant, maybe it isn't, but either way to question and talk to the candidates prior to voting.
Which polling tool are you referring to?
The polis.
Oh,
Yeah,
polls.
that's I was saying that is if that's relevant, that can be used. Otherwise, some other mechanism for people to ask questions from the candidates so that they can answer it before the voting day.
The nice thing about idea scale is each proposal actually has a comment section where people can ask questions and the proposer, or in this case, candidate, can answer. So I like the fact that you don't have to build new tooling, and this could just work there for now as an experiment. Yeah. Harris, your hand.
So I just wanted to mention, I included in the last town hall, we have the precise schedule of sort of Fund 9. And so, we do need to maybe work backwards, but I think since we are including a buffer time, that there would be ample time between when we see voting results to when the next circle would start. So I think that's already built in, which is really great. And one of the things that I think is in consideration is ensuring that the V4 circle is funded. And so if there is a payout, for that specific role or incentive for that specific role, that will likely need, if we're injecting these challenges, the payment of those individuals would need to be separate. And so that's something, if it already exists, great. And we can put it in as a zero fund challenge. So that I think would be pretty easy. I think where it starts to get contentious is if we are trying to assign a value to that challenge and fund the seat that way. So that would have to be probably in the future. So just to clarify, if we introduce this process, which definitely it seems like we're starting to get some alignment on, as long as we have the right buy-in, we are circumventing a little bit of the process by adding these challenges sort of after deadlines. But if it's zero value, then there should be less contention, I'm hoping.
We're way over time for this, so I would suggest we take some of the more detailed conversations into the working session and make it a topic there if we want, or the next meeting. But if Jonathan or Joey have any quick comments, we can take them now.
Yep, my comment was only that we would still continue to do governance day and election fest, although we wouldn't be the voting. But to Dimitri's point, we would still provide that venue before the voting for people to come share their platform. People could read in advance and engage with their community. So that still wouldn't go away with this process. Thanks.
Very good point. And
Yeah, just quickly, I uploaded a copy of that town hall presentation slide with the Fund 9 dates on it. So it's there on that list.
Okay, thanks, Joey. I think that's helpful to figure out what our deadlines are and working backwards from there. But it seems like we have a little bit of a direction here. So yeah, I look forward to seeing how it develops, and definitely something we should probably work on offline at a working session or at the next meeting. Let's move on. Dimitri, you're up next with the proposal for use of your rapid funding mechanism funds.
Yeah, so I've basically got an idea of how to use this rapid funding. So the first step is there is a survey on governance for Gimba Labs, which was made by Gimba Labs. So to incentivize people for doing that survey, and also where they at the same time they'll get incentivized if they volunteer to say in what capacity they can help involving taking care of newcomers. And so in that context, I have asked the question from the circle, which is your feedback as to how much incentives for filling out the form and how much incentives for mentoring someone. The second point is where I would host Twitter spaces for Project Catalyst proposals that have not got funded or maybe have got funded, and particularly ones relating to general ADA holders. And then come to creation of a Git book and list out all this in the Git book. I mean, as you can see, it's all listed in the detail there. So everybody who's come on the Twitter space and presented their proposal, they will fill out a form giving all the details and create a structure which gathers the data of these projects that have come onto the Twitter space and talked about their project. Also to structure some sort of rules like Dumpling has. And so your feedback as to optimal duration, how many guests, how much time per guest or proposal, getting some idea of what you all think would be optimal. And also, where would it be appropriate to publicize this Twitter space? Is it appropriate to put it on a slide at a town hall meeting, since this is a use of the rapid funding, or to put it in the chat as others do with proposals? Or if neither of these is appropriate, what would be the best way to promote this? I would like to find that out beforehand rather than doing something and then finding out the hard way down the line. The third one I've asked, so then after this is done, we set up the Discord, document the plan, and then Andre and Miro from the Treasury will set up the GitHub and the Git book with Stephen and have a Discord, and then that will couple with the Twitter space so that the ongoing discussion can happen on the Discord. And so the Twitter space will be maybe 2 or 3 times a week, depending on how much time I can put for it. And invite co-hosts as well as guests to come and participate in it and make this an ongoing thing where it's from the context of general ADA holders, not necessarily skewed towards developers or highly technical, but it'll be more projects that are useful for non-tech or maybe non-developers kind of projects. So one of the end results will be we'll have a trove of projects that are getting presented in this space, and people will be able to interact with the projects. The projects can then talk about their ongoing work. Even the funded projects can talk about their ongoing work and share with the community. And also one of the emphasis will be where the projects that are looking for collaborations will be able to say these are the areas where we need collaborations, and that will become a place where people who are looking to collaborate in different areas who have skills to offer can come and say, yeah, I like to give my skills in this particular area. Are there projects that want to use me, kind of thing? So that's another area where this place might be useful. And so that is the idea that I have. So other than the incentivization, I mean, other than the money going for incentivization, some of the money would go for the Twitter space paying co-hosts and so on. And also if it is possible, I don't know if it is or isn't, to finance proper internet access and whatnot on my side. I don't know whether that will be allowed or not, but that's a question I have to ask from the Treasury. But of course, that is also relevant to the effective running of the Twitter space. So the things I've mentioned are the internet connection, mic, and fan. Anyway, so that is the final thing. So the idea here is we run Twitter spaces, create knowledge, create collaboration. And apart from this, I'm also looking at system, like a mini funding kind of thing, where smaller projects which are relevant to the general ADA holder community of, we'll say, $2,000 or 2,000, actually more, it's 2,000 ADA, would be able to do some sort of a matching grant, where from the $7,000 worth of ADA that I have, where they will put part of the funds, and then we match, I match it with some of the funds, and that becomes a project that gets funded. So it's not a fully funded project, but they've got to contribute part of the funds, and from this thing I put part of the funds, and that becomes a funded project, with emphasis for projects that deal with generally, I mean, ADA holding community. So I haven't fleshed out the entire details of that, but I would like your feedback on the points that were made on the above mentioned things, like what I've said, where I need your feedback.
All right, comments?
Yeah.
from
So
Mr. Paul?
yeah.
Rhys, go ahead.
So that's it from me. Any comments from you?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Dimitri, but the only thing that would concern me is pulling a crowd. So I feel like to do spaces, for example, to prove your work before you pay yourself for it. That's the only thing, really, because otherwise it can quite quickly become a wasted effort that you've paid yourself for, essentially. You know, so
Yeah,
that's
understood.
it. It's a great
There
idea.
is no pay.
It's definitely
I mean,
worth doing.
the money won't come to me in any case. I mean, the money is always going outside. But I mean, I get your point. So
Well, yeah,
what
no,
we
but
want
I
to do
mean,
is,
for internet access, for a mic, for fan, like, etc. It's not that that's a bad investment. You know, it's a very good investment. But yeah, like a lot of people are doing this for already. You know, so it just to prove your work before you pay yourself for it. That's the only thing I was saying. It's not don't do it. Definitely do
okay,
it.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that's the only thing that I'd like to see, that it was working before money went that way. That was all.
Thanks, Rhys. Nadia.
Yeah, just my question will be, have you talked to, there's a group in Gimbal Labs that created this governance survey, and they do have criteria around it and regular meetings. Have you talked with that group about this idea?
No, not yet. I got a copy of the survey about 2 days ago, and I'm looking at it first. And I formulated this idea about 2 days ago with Peter as well. And I'm still fleshing it out. And once I get a clear handle of how to proceed on it, then I will talk to the Gimbal Labs people of how best to run the survey, what their objectives are on the survey, and how also to incentivize people for taking the survey.
Okay, my comment to you simply is that might not be something that, you know, this is an initiative that they've been working on for a while now. It's been in the works, so perhaps starting there and talking with them about it beforehand, rather than, you know, because it is underway, and it has a lot of contributors to it who are in a channel within there. So you could easily go in there and just share this idea with them and see if it resonates, or if it's you know, how they would want to collaborate too. It's my suggestion.
Thanks, Nadia.
Thank you.
Harris, and then Mercy.
Yeah, Dimitri, I definitely would love to see this as a prioritized problem on the board. So if you're working on solving something specific here, I mean, it seems like a reasonable proposal. You know, if you can include the link maybe to the information from Gimbal Labs on governance, I'm curious to see it. But yeah, we should be tracking this as a prioritized problem.
Great point, Harris. Thanks. Mercy, and then Joey.
You know, very quickly, you know, when the proposal was put in, there were some metrics, and you know, that Dimitri is suggesting, you know, there aren't any like huge red flags. Is there a lot of you know, sort of deep dive, how do we do it kind of thing? You know, none of yeah. So, you know, as a wrap up, I'm just saying that this is a situation that can easily be taken offline, and then maybe do a deep dive and pick it up from there.
Thanks, Mercy. Joey, any final
Hi,
comments?
hi, Dimitri. It would just be my advice that anything you do, you want to make sure that there's no implication that you're paying yourself, that it's clearly defined who you're paying and what you're paying for, because, you know, the community would react to that. And I think Rhys was kind of implying that as well. So just be aware of that. If you're going to do these type of proposals, make sure you know you define who's doing the work and who you're paying to do it, so that it doesn't look like you're paying yourself.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, Joey. And thanks everybody for your comments. The one thing I would toss in would be maybe set up the D work and Discord first, and then maybe you can start to use some of the rapid funding funds as bounties and let the community kind of jump in and assist that way. And that'd be a great way to track progress and how things have been spent as well. Okay, but it sounds like overall there's no strong objections to the plan. I think there's a little bit of a question still around funding for internet, mic, and fan. And perhaps we can take that offline, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be a large amount of funding either. JP, your hand's up.
Yeah, my apologies for jumping in so much, guys. But I just want to also flag that it's really important that you go through the proposal to read exactly what was listed in the proposal for the activities. And when you write your suggestion for how to spend the funds, please try as best as possible to link it back to what the proposal said. So when we do the closeout report, we're not having to search for what was done. We can say, okay, here's what was done. It's clear. This is how you met this goal in the proposal. And then that's a way that I just want to avoid the perception that the admin team is saying, no, that the funding can't be spent, but we just need it to align with the proposal because that's what was funded. So that's where the request from Andre, and then I said I would relay that. So thanks.
Great point, Jonathan. And if you have it, can you put a link to the rapid funding proposal in chat and in the notes, just so that we have easier access to remind people of that?
For sure. I won't be able to do it because I'm on my phone, but I'll put it in Slack and I'll put it in the notes for sure.
Okay, thanks very much. And thanks everybody for that conversation. Next one we'll jump into to keep on track is code of conduct. Harris.
Great. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me stop my share.
Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen okay. I can make this larger. Can everyone see this all right?
Larger would be like really nice. You can make it bigger.
Is that okay?
Yay, thank you.
Okay. So we set out with the intention of processing the data that we actually had. And we tried to set some initial criteria. So I can review some of this criteria. There are a number of items that I've sort of manually reviewed every one of them and tried to categorize sort of based on this criteria. There's a number of items potentially that would be really ripe for discussion that we could take into the after town hall next week. And so, that's sort of my first pass proposal, but I would like to maybe just briefly review the criteria and make sure we have buy-in that it seems reasonable. So let me just highlight that quickly, and then I'll jump into some of the discussion items. I have shared this spreadsheet. I think, Nora, you have edit access, but I believe the circle members now have comment access. So if there's specific items you would like to comment on, then we can do that. I can open it up to more people if we want all of us editing or commenting or categorizing. That's also fine too. But anyway, I just wanted to share where we are and what we have. And the idea is that we would take these items into discussion with after town hall, in addition to maybe reading out some of the results that we have. So the idea is that if there's any of these items that are really split sort of between an agree and disagree, that those are divided and probably require discussion. So I flagged those as divided. There's some items that weren't really relevant to the circle, so those would be not applicable or NA. I've categorized those. And then if there's folks that agreed strongly that were 70% or greater of consensus in terms of, we agree, then those would clearly be spelled out as, yeah, we should do these things. That's what the circle should do. There are some of the questions that are actually tagged as being sort of the negative, the circle shall not do these things. And so that's what I mean by we should do these things, but it's stated in a negative form. So we may have to rewrite it. But anyway, so that just to clarify what I mean by negative. And then there's a list of these items that were clear. We had a dominant disagreement that we should don't do these things. So I definitely tried to interpret the information. So the end goal is that here's the things we should do, and here's the things that don't do. And that would then inform kind of a legal document kind of from this point. And so I'll get into the list here shortly. And then, just stating the range, we have a range of, 40% to, 69% that are potentially questionable. Maybe there's value, but it wasn't meeting the 70% criteria. So, and there's a lot of those. So potentially we would have to discuss each of those or have a breakout session to discuss each of those to align whether it makes sense, or, there were some duplicates, which I ended up just flagging as duplicates. So those are in the list if there's ones you agree or disagree. And so that was true if it's in between 40 and 69%. Anything that was less than 39%, or has low votes, we just would dismiss. So that's kind of the criteria that I came into with this. And I'll pause for questions there. Jonathan, you have your hand raised. Okay. All right, cool.
Sorry,
no worries. Yeah, I'll jump into sort of the categorized items here. And so, taking the data, I just manually scraped it, put it into the spreadsheet. Unfortunately, there was no easy way to output from the Polis tool, which is sad. I think they used to support it, but they don't any longer. So anyway, so I was able to get the data into this format. So we have agree, disagree, abstain. For the most part, I'm ignoring abstain and the number of votes that were actually cast. And so we set kind of a minimum criteria that we want at least 10 votes or more. So anything that's less than 10 votes potentially would be thrown out. And it's sort of flagged sort of accordingly. So I will say, hey, there's low votes. There's a few of these that are low votes that potentially we could discuss in detail and deliberate on. So, but this is a lot of work, right? So we can share the spreadsheet and the results with the community and then bring that into sort of the dialogue and after town hall, which might be an approach that we take. But just to kind of highlight a few of these, so there is one that's equally divided where there's a lot of abstains. So I'm looking at this sort of this third item, 126. Community members do not have the right to attack circle members and call them names. That was divided, that was split. So I would potentially suggest that this is something we discuss. I don't quite know what to do with this data, but certainly any feedback. That's sort of one example. This first one
it sounds as if they are equally saying you can attack and some are saying you can't attack. So it's a bit funny there. That's what it looks like. Is that what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to interpret sort of how this was created and what do we do with this. But this is sort of less than 10% of people agree and disagree, right? So we either throw it out or we have a discussion and then decide whether it's worthy to include as a do or do not.
Seems to talk about community member code of conduct, not circle code of conduct. And just from that, I would throw it out because it's not a circle code of conduct thing. It's
okay.
Well done, Lori. Well done.
That makes sense. Okay, so I can put it into the ignore column in theory. So we could potentially go through these one by one, but I just kind of wanted to share this with the circle. And are there folks that would suggest a better process? Do we want to take this as an offline activity and folks can take portions of this? Or do we just open it to the community? Mercy, you have your hand up.
So very quickly, it's not a direct response to your most recent question, but I'm just wondering, so we have this code of conduct. Will it be beneficial to have like consequences if this is broken? Like, should that be clarified?
Yeah, I would definitely think that should be clarified. So you know, that could go into the final document for sure.
Dimitri, your hand's up.
Yeah, I said that unless the community also has some sort of a code of conduct, I as a circle member cannot blanket agree to any code of conduct where the community has no boundaries established at the same time. Having been the recipient of a bunch of stuff, I could not agree to a code of conduct where I am constrained and others are not. So just wanted to share that point.
For the general community, we have a code of conduct, right? That applies out, that IOG has set forth. So this is really about circle members. And I don't know if we need to publicize the community code of conduct more, but I believe it exists. Am I wrong?
I believe it does exist. I think I've read it.
Yeah, it does exist. You know, there are parameters that are defined as part of idea scale. I think there's a general moderators guideline that says, you know, what moderators are entailed to do. But that's typically in the more official Catalyst channels. If there's side discussion or open dialogue on Twitter, it can be very difficult to moderate that or take any specific course of action. And so there will be a limit to where that reach will be held. But I believe, you know, Dimitri, certainly our objective is to try to define what circle members should be doing and not doing. So we do have some clear signals that are here. So there's a list of these things that we should do. We should find more value in listening than talking, is one of the things we should do. We should avoid censorship and leave politics aside. We should engage the community in social media, you know, and these are the things we should do. So these are rather clear signals with enough votes and a high enough agreement that it's clear. You know, these ones again are stated in the negative. So Catalyst Circle members should not break any legal laws pertaining to employment. So I guess we should do this. We should not do this activity, but you know, so that could be rephrased potentially. But anyway, just the fact that it had not, I just called that out as a negative. And then there is a set of don'ts. So we should, Catalyst Circle rep can promote a personal proposal in a circle forum. So we should not do that. And that should become part of the code of conduct. You know, a circle member should not be able to submit an unlimited number of proposals. So we should don't do that, I guess is how I'm trying to say it. And then
then in that case, would you say that we should would you say that we should put a number, like say, okay, like less than X or more, not more than Y or whatever, so that it's pretty clear then what is the number that is acceptable? Then that makes it easy.
Sure. Yeah, so we can add that as an item to deliberate and discuss, I guess. But again, we want to get an initial frame out. And again, it would become a living document that could be updated over time. So we don't want to take 3 months to get this code of conduct out there so it is clear. And I totally agree. We should have a consequences section that says, okay, if this happens, then this is the effect of that. And so that we do need to possibly deliberate more on and start to define that. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to share these results, in terms of further categorization and alignment on these things. So there's only a handful of don'ts. There's definitely some, duplicates. There are some with low votes that are less than 10. There very likely are additional duplicates that I haven't caught. So I don't know, Nori, if you have any bandwidth to jump in and maybe take a pass, that would be great.
I can take a pass, and then maybe we can, as a circle, since everyone has at least comment rights, can go through and comment on your thoughts on each of these. Because we're running out of time in this meeting and we need to move to the last two topics. But for next steps, Terrace, what would you like to see?
So certainly would love involvement of the circle. I would love support actually for the after town hall next week to conduct that. So anyone here that can join me in that after town hall?
Yeah, I can be there.
Okay.
I'll try to be there as well.
And Nadia and Dimitri, you have your hand raised, but
Yeah, I'll be there.
okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you. So we'll set that after town hall. I'll definitely sort of stage the feedback. And I think we talked about maybe having an open dialogue on what we should and should not do, maybe first, or sort of a hybrid of open dialogue and reviewing this list. Any thoughts on that leading into after town hall? We'll carry that in Slack.
Yeah, I like the idea of like presenting data and then letting open discussion happen. I would like to just ask quickly, Harris, should we promote it? I think it would be good if we let people know that we're doing this. So should we provide that document, or should we just say, the data will be revealed at that time and we'll go through it and so we can let the community know that we're holding this prior to. I know you announced it also, but hopefully some of the channels will let people know and tell them to come.
Yeah, we can give you access to anyone with this because it's really the same result that's in the report, which I believe we shared the report link historically. But this is sort of a synthesis of the data. So maybe we should publish this. I think that's great.
Maybe each rep can promote it in their channels to say this is happening at after town hall next week.
Cool.
With the link.
That'd be great. So I'll provide that link to the circle and we'll get the word out.
Great.
All right, Nadia, you want to go to your topic on utilizing scribes and record keepers?
Yeah, and it's more just a real quick one, which is that, having finished this first period and moving into the next stretch here, I would like to enlist someone to scribe and compile data in a way that, we have a lot of meetings in our particular group, but also just, there's a lot to document here from this time. And so it was suggested by one of our Subcircle members that we have, that maybe I enlist someone to start, and then there's also a second person, so there's overlap. So on a 6-month term, they could hand off to each other. One scribe would start now. Then at the beginning of the next term, the incoming rep could have someone who's been here who intends to stay for that 3 months. So you have that 6-month engagement, and then that you enlist someone new so that that process continues, which I really liked that idea. So I was thinking of using some of our 7 or however much I have remaining there towards that. And then I also would just maybe open a discussion with everyone else for how you are doing your record keeping. I know, Joe, you have June, and Mercy, you have Vanessa and Stephen in your Subcircle. And it would be nice if we had some cohesion as to that for like time stamping and some continuity across how those records are kept. So we have enough, but not too much. So more opening the conversation, sort of presenting that's how I'm thinking of using it. And then hopefully incorporating that also into the GitHub prioritized problems so that we really have a good, thorough archive of what's happened. So if anyone has a thing that's working well for you, that would be excited to hear what you're doing, and I will absorb it into the thinking about this process. Or if you have someone who you think this would be a great person to do that, who's not already enlisted, that we could engage someone within your communities in that process, that'd be fantastic. That is it. Thank you.
Thanks. And I think
Well, for the
oh, go ahead. Mercy.
Sorry, yeah, for the FP group, you know, we are blessed to have Vanessa. So she has been doing a lot of the scribing on that side of things, and obviously then Nadia also is very good with the scribing in terms of some of the joint work that we've done. But I definitely believe that it's a very key role. It's good to find somebody to actually do that work. So yeah.
Joy.
Yeah, I like the overlapping idea. I think that's great because the next person coming in can focus on their work, not all these setting up all these processes. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. And probably a really great use of the rapid funding just to enable that. But also maybe opportunities with the audit circle, QA DAO, all these groups that are forming basic like guilds or DAOs around this process, but also the admin team has the secretaries too. That I don't know, JP just came off mute, so maybe he has some thoughts there.
Yeah, sorry again. As I said to Dimitri, I'd like to reiterate to Nadia, I love the idea and the proposal. Just make sure that when you're doing it, that you can make the link back to where the funding is coming from and how what you're proposing meets the goals of that. And then that just closes the loop, and then it's very easy for the funds to get dispersed.
I was hoping you were about to say you had a few extra hours in your week that you wanted to do it.
Oh yeah, just tons of time.
Thank you for that.
All right, Mercy, you have the final topic for the day on catalyst issue sensing and scope appetite for possible redesign.
Yeah, so at the end of this, I'll try and make it really quick. What I am wanting to know from this meeting is whether Circle thinks that it should be a prioritized problem. And also maybe Harris can start letting us know what kind of scope we have. So basically, the background for this is that there's been a lot of sensing going on the CA side, on the, on all rounds. From a funded proposal point of view, we've been doing a lot of consulting and also trying to help, the sort of the unfunded proposal side of things, trying to make things a bit easier by working with Danny to even redesign the template or add to the template, as can be helpful. So basically, Danny has just been a star in terms of making himself available. He understands why this needs to be done because he's a community manager guy, and he thinks that when he works with us, it makes his work easier. So, he has the right spirit. And what I have been seeing and thinking and wondering, in terms of all these sensings that are coming on, that is, being done is that it's not a separate CA thing. It's not a separate SBO thing or a data holder or anything like that. It's all sort of a big congregate kind of issue. So if say, the funded proposals or unfunded proposals begin to solve, work with Danny to solve problems, or CAs work separately with Danny to solve problems, then we have this problem or this issue whereby, you fix one side of it and then the other side breaks. And I think that was very clear in Fund 8. Some of the big issues that have come up is, sort of the platform, the idea scale. That has been, I remember it has been an issue since Fund 1 in terms of, it's how fit for purpose it is. It came up again during problem sensing. The proper use of insight, the insight sharing phase. Dor always said that that's key to beginning a fund, but there is really no closing of the loop. So it's done, and then a sort of grid points there. There is no time for proposers to go look at it, and then it sort of goes into a black hole that nobody really follows up on. So that's something that needs to be done. The different languages is becoming an issue in terms of, a lot of Spanish and French and Japanese and other languages that also needs to be reflected to some extent to the best ability possible. As an issue, there has been discussions about a two-tier for proposals and a two-phase for proposals. I'm not going to go into the details of that. Also, the C and the VCA process, we know for Fund 8, there were some big issues there. And then, yeah, there's just, you know, the issue of spam proposals. We know that it's growing in terms of, you know, by Fund 12 or after, you know, if we get a big corporate coming in with lots of people, you know, it will just break the system. So that's another big issue. And also, you know, this whole idea of actually experimenting. Anyway, so I just wanted to throw that out there. There are lots and lots of issues that need to be treated comprehensively. And in the future, I'm actually seeing sort of a multi-group proposal, maybe even for Fund 9 to start tackling these things, as well as inside a circle for it to be monitored V4 ETC. So my first question is that, do we think that this is a great idea? Maybe I think that the first question maybe should go to Rhys, IOG, in terms of what kind of scope, or yeah, I would say scope for IOG do we have as a community in terms of actually experimenting and figuring out whether what we currently have is actually working.
Just to interrupt, just because we're past the end of the meeting time, and I want to make sure that we have a good discussion. These sound like prioritized problems that should be on the board. And then we can, because the circle is the place where cross-group, multi-group things are raised and discussed and brought to some kind of conclusion with the community. So these sound like they're all things that should be on the board if they're not already.
Perfect.
So that's
okay. So then we can
to record.
Yeah. So sure. So then I think that we can, you know, in the interest of time. So I'm getting a permission that we'll just put this on the board and then follow up in subsequent meetings, even with regarding the IOG even side of things. I think that's perfect. Then we can wrap this up. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for bringing those up, Mercy. Okay, we're at the end of the meeting time. If Jonathan is still available, can you drop a link to the survey in chat? If you can all fill that out within the next little while. It's super helpful for our reporting, and the feedback for the meetings help us improve that over time as well. So we always appreciate that. And then very quickly, let's just do some closing remarks from Joey and then Harris.
All good. I failed to mention that I had set up a Discord channel as well for tool makers and maintainers, and Felix and Tivo and some others have invited me there, and Felix has been great. He jumped in and said, hey, let's put some of this priority board stuff on the board and let's start working on it together. So hopefully between now and the next meeting, we can get some closure to some of these things.
Amazing. Is that open to the public? Can you share that in chat or in Slack so that we can add it to the notes? And
yeah, I'll do that.
Find their way there. Thanks.
All right. I definitely can give an update. Are we meeting at the same time in 2 weeks, or do we need to talk about our next meeting?
The proposal was to skip the next one just to follow with the break that IOG is having. I guess, is there anybody opposed to that?
So when is the official next meeting then?
Let me pull that up. So we would be skipping the 26th. And the next official one would be June 9th.
Okay. And then how about working sessions? Are we going to keep that on the calendar?
Yeah, they're optional. So if people want to use them, we can. But maybe in line with that, we skip the 26th meeting and the working session on the 2nd, and still meet next week if we want to finish some stuff up.
Okay, then I did want to sort of make an announcement, I guess. You know, I am changing my role within IOG a bit. And so I am likely going to be bringing additional IOG people into this seat. in the upcoming, within the course of the next few weeks, most likely. So I'll be transitioning into another person that will be taking on the IOG seat since it's appointed. And so I just wanted to make that announcement. And I'll certainly be here to support, and it might become, where I'm part of a subcircle of the IOG team. So I definitely not losing sight, but I just wanted to sort of share a little bit of that, since we're skipping a whole week, and it may transpire. So there'll be transition. There'll be more than one of us probably in the next meeting then. So just to make that clear.
Thanks for that announcement.
Yeah, but in general, I thought it was a productive meeting. I think we were able to get through a lot of the items. I'm glad we're focused on the prioritized problems, and I really think that we can continue to make that the source of truth, and our homework is adding to that. So definitely encourage everyone, if you have an issue, don't just put it in the meeting, put it in the board, and then we'll discuss it in the meeting. So cool, thank you.
Great. Rhys and then Nadia.
Yeah, congratulations, Harris. Best of luck with everything. I look forward to seeing you choose to replace yourself. But yeah, I'm feeling a lot better than I was at the beginning of the call. So thanks, guys. Sometimes just a little bit of people to talk to and a bit of energy helps with that. Yeah, I'm feeling good about all the work we're doing. I feel like I'm really kind of pushing things forward for the SPOs. And yeah, I look forward to catching up with you all on Slack.
Nadia and then Mercy.
I'm good.
Thanks for keeping it short. Mercy and then Dimitri.
Yeah, great meeting. Thanks everyone. Always great to hang out. And all the best, Harris. I think we'll miss you.
I'm still involved in Catalyst, so I'm just taking a bigger role.
Sure. Okay.
Thanks, Mercy. Dimitri, how are you doing? Final words.
Good meeting, very productive.
Awesome. JP, any last words?
Yeah, doing good. Appreciate you guys with my disjointedness today, but really love the meetings.
Yeah, thanks. And for myself, feel really good, felt it was productive, and thanks everybody for all your participation and engagement with this experiment. I think it's really cool to see everyone doing really cool stuff. So yeah, thanks everybody. And we'll take a break. We'll have an official governance recess for the next meeting, and then we'll catch up again at the one after. So enjoy your time off.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks all.
Take care.
Sure.
Cheers. Bye, guys.